extend my best wishes to all members as we embark on this crucial national endeavor.
Optimizing the holding of government assets, in particular to implement a strategy of increasing the value that the government gets from its investments.
Welcome to OTNA, your window to information on optimization.
Reforms take time. It's a process, and the process of reforms always brings results. But where does it start from, and how is this process done? Welcome. It's another edition of OTNA, Optimizing the Nation's Assets. Today on the program, I'll be speaking with an optimizer, a man who understands the process of reforms, having served as Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises in 1999. He was also the immediate past governor of Kaduna State. Malam Nasiru el-Rufai is our guest today on OTNA. Come with me and let's have a feel of what reforms is all about as we take you back in time to how the process has been, which has led to some of the great reforms that we can see, we can touch, we can handle today in Nigeria.
OTNA, optimizing the nation's assets.
Thank you very much for joining us, Your Excellency. Some people know you from newspapers, some others know you as former governor of Kaduna State. We know that your story is much more beyond that. Provide us, Your Excellency, with some overview of your professional background and what really led you to become the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE.
I graduated from Ahmadu Bello University in 1980 as a quantity surveyor. I served in Ogun State and began my working career in Zaria, Kaduna State. After a couple of years, I went and got an MBA. And I became interested in the subject, took time off to attend at the D. Little School of Management to do a graduate diploma in privatization, along with some staff of the BPE at the time, I remember. And it was just out of interest. I didn't know that I was going to end up as the Director General of BPE.
From your records, Your Excellency, at your time as Director General, you particularly focused on reforms. It was clear that you had some particular passion for reforms, and this led to the privatization and commercialization of some enterprises in Nigeria at that time. Tell us, what motivated you? Why did you focus on the reforms at that time? What was your motivation?
Before you sell those public monopolies, let's put them that way, we needed to ensure that the macroeconomy is reformed. We look at the legal constraints to private sector participation, we remove them. Where we feel that there is a need for a sector regulator, we establish the sector regulator, we train the first set of regulators and ensure that they regulate, they are quite capable of regulating the sector so that there is a level playing field. And then we license new competitors. So we're not just privatizing, we're also undertaking policy, legal and regulatory reform.
Generally, change is very difficult to adapt to, and this touches on the mindset of the people. I'm wondering, what did you do about the mindset of the people who probably didn't want this change to happen? How did you get it happen?
We forced it on them. Look, I was lucky as head of BPE to have a very powerful vice president. NCP in my time met unfailingly every month. Once a month, NCP met, because we submit progress reports we tell the council what we intend to do for the next 1 month so that we can be held accountable. And we tell them where we need political support. But generally speaking, we got the cooperation of the ministers. They understood. They were also getting educated about privatization. They were seeing the benefits. And whenever we go to a complicated issue like pensions, because pension was not privatization, but it is BPE that started the pension reforms that you now have.
As you just saw, Your Excellency, and our dear viewers, it's clear that reforms brings success. As you can see what it was before and what it is now. Now, Your Excellency, let's talk about public offers and investor relations. Some people question the way the system is done, the public offers system. Sometimes people will tell you that it's not transparent, that some things seem not to be straight. How did you handle public offers, or how did you handle investor relations, ensuring that things were done straight?
Okay, look, the BP already had a tradition from its TCPC days of handling public offers for shares, okay, listing on the stock exchange. That's the least controversial. They know how to do that very well. The challenge that I faced when I took over was in the privatization decree that we inherited, or I would say we drafted, Ama, Iwagu, and I. We introduced this idea of co-investors, okay? Because we found that many of the companies we privatized, the shares were so spread wide that nobody was in charge. So these companies ended up being victims of the dictatorship of management without any corporate governance controls.
Memories can be very wonderful, especially when you have to think back of what happened previously. So share with us, Your Excellency, your most memorable experience of investor relations.
My most memorable experience had to do with the sale of Nitel. Okay. We went round the world trying to get investors to buy Nitel. Nobody was interested. In the end, we got 3 bids, I think, 3 or 4 bids. We didn't go out in the BPE to sell Nitel. We were interested in selling the market. We were selling the market opportunity. Nitel was worth almost nothing. But the market opportunity, 100 million people at the time that wanted telephones that they couldn't get. You have to join a queue of years to get a phone line or bribe. That's what we are selling. So we made efforts. We went on to privatize Nitel. The guys paid 10%. They couldn't pay the balance. It was aborted. I left. It was tried again, and so on and so forth. But that's not the story. The story is that the outcome of the reforms of the telecom sector are clear for everyone to see. So when you reform correctly, when you reform properly, the results are clear. And the telecom sector is an example of what we can do in electricity, what we can do in oil and gas, what we can do everywhere.
If you could turn back the hands of time, what changes would you make?
If there is anything that I would have wanted differently about BPE, was to maintain a succession system by picking people from within. Because if I had been succeeded by one of the directors in BPE, maybe it would have taken a completely different path. Because our directors were very well prepared, and they knew what to do. And it was, look, BP is not a political job. It's a technocratic job. The political aspects of the job are in the purview of the Vice President and Privatization Council.
Before we go, Your Excellency, some Nigerians still do not understand reforms. How would you explain reforms to such people who do not understand it? What are the advantages of reforms? How will reforms turn our economy around?
What I want Nigerians to advert their minds to is one or two things. First, for those old enough to remember when we had only Nitel providing telecom services, I want them to compare with life then and now, when you have a choice of moving from Glo to MTN to Airtel to 9 Mobile. It's freedom. Okay? I know that 70% of Nigerians were born after 1993. So they don't know some of the things that we have lived. But there was a time when to withdraw money from your bank, you have to go to the bank, fill forms, get a token, and wait for hours to collect your money. This is what we need to understand. The world is changing. And you have to adapt. And one of these adaptations is continuous reform. You must always look at where you are and say, how can I be better? How can I get better? And you cannot do so unless you move from where you are to another position. That's reform. And it is not always comfortable. It is not always easy. And it doesn't always work. All right? But it is better than remaining in one place. It's better than being static.
We want to thank you very much for the privilege of speaking with you, and thank you for coming on the program OTNA. It can only get better, and we can only continue to hope that things get better. Let me thank you very much for joining us on the program. Malam Nasir el-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State and former Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises.
OTNA, optimization on the go.
No doubt, it's very clear that reforms is the way to go to have a bigger, better, richer Nigeria. And you and I have our roles to play. Until we come your way again next week on OTNA, remember, reforms lead to optimization of the assets in Nigeria. Remember that optimizing the nation's assets is the way to go. And with this, our country, Nigeria, Africa as a continent, and indeed globally, would have a better world for you and for me. Bye for now.
This is OTNA, optimizing the nation's assets.
Over 11 committees were set up to drive specific sector. We can't be selling a transaction halfway, you say you withdraw the power of attorney. So we made them irrevocable. If you allow BP to operate, they will deliver a perfect transaction.